by what truly lurks in the shadows when the world sleeps? That was the question Jonathan Hale once asked himself, a night watchman at the Old City Museum in Plymouth, Massachusetts. The job was considered easy. Quiet halls, dusty exhibits, a few tourists by day, and absolute silence at night. But the building had a dark reputation. The three-story structure, with its basement full of uncharted corridors, had been erected at the end of the 19th century on the grounds of an old burial ground for the first settlers. Locals joked that the museum breathes with the bones of the dead, and that voices could be heard in its corridors if you stayed too long. Jonathan didn't believe such stories. He was a practical man, an army veteran, a widower who only needed steady work. At midnight, he patrolled the main hall. Behind glass cases stood mummies, Native American masks, and colonial weapons. The darkness seemed heavier here than outside, and his flashlight revealed only fragments, never pushing the blackness back entirely. Around 2 a.m. he heard a creak. At first he thought it was the old wooden floorboards. But the sound was too deliberate, like footsteps. He froze, listening. Silence. He walked on. The creak came again, this time behind him. He turned sharply. No one there. Only a Civil War mannequin in uniform standing in the corner seemed closer than it had been before. "You're spooking yourself, Hale," he thought. Boring job, wild imagination. The second night was stranger. In the archaeology wing, he watched as the clock began to tick backward. From behind a display of skulls came the sound of children's laughter. He hurried over, flashlight raised. Nothing. But on the dusty glass of the case, a small handprint appeared on the inside. That night, his flashlight flickered out 3 times. Each time, in the smothering dark, he felt breath against his neck as if someone was standing right there. The art gallery was colder than the rest of the building. Portraits of stern-faced colonists glared from the walls. Jonathan's beam landed on one painting, and he saw the man's eyes blink. At first he thought it was just a trick of the light, but then the painted mouth moved and a whisper crawled through the air. "You don't belong here." Jonathan fled the gallery, but the whisper followed him through the corridors. On his 4th morning, Jonathan met an old man by the entrance, shabby and bent. He introduced himself as Matthew Brown, a former guard. "You can't last long here," he rasped. "The building remembers too much. It absorbs." "Absorbs what?" Jonathan asked. The old man smiled, showing empty gums. "Everything. Everyone who stays at night. The 5th night was the worst. At 3 o'clock, the witching hour, every exhibit came alive. The wolf's head turned, the stuffed bear growled. Wax soldiers in glass cases stepped forward, joints creaking. Jonathan stumbled backward, dropping his flashlight. The bulb shattered. Darkness swallowed the hall. From the basement rose a thunder of footsteps, hundreds of them. A freezing wind slithered through the cracks. Then he saw them. Shadows peeling off the walls and floor, their faces eyeless, mouths whispering in unison. "Stay with us. You're already one of us. Here, time never moves." He ran to the exit, but the heavy doors were gone. In their place was a solid wall. With a final scream, Jonathan turned back to the gallery and froze. Every portrait now showed his own face, distorted, mouth agape, eyes empty, forever trapped in paint. At dawn, the new day guard, a young man named Kevin, found only an empty chair at the guard's post and an open duty log. The last line was scrawled in a trembling hand. "The shadows live. They don't let go. I can hear them inside me. If you're reading this, leave before it's too late." The museum is still open today. Tourists take photos, laugh at the wax figures, marvel at the relics. But the staff know. No night guard lasts longer than a week, and if you listen closely in the quiet, you might hear the sound of boots echoing down the halls. Heavy boots of a man who isn't alive anymore.